Fashion-maniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
Welcome to GeoGearHeads. This is a well-rounded show. It's episode 360. And we've got some great topics tonight. We're going to talk about our gear, the gear we use, the very gear we take on the trails with us. But before we get to that, let's get to our host. Daryl, are you staying awake? Is the tryptophan kicking in yet?
No and no. I am not staying awake, but it has nothing to do with the tryptophan. Just a very, very long week.
Yeah,
and it's only Thursday.
That's right.
How about you? Have you been overdosing on turkey?
I just finished my meal about an hour ago. So, it's digesting. If I might have to run and excuse myself from the podcast for a few minutes.
See, during the first of the two dinners I had tonight, we had to start kicking into the dessert to get that sugar energy going to keep us alive and moving to the next one.
Yet.
See, maybe you need to take a quick break, go and do that while we introduce our guest for tonight. So you get all powered up. And first off, we've got Land Monkey back on the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me back, even after the last time.
Thanks for coming back, because it is Thanksgiving here, and even though you guys already did Thanksgiving,
oh yeah, that's old.
Yeah, we figured you could come back and be thankful for something.
Oh, I'm thankful every time I'm allowed back on your podcast, Daryl.
And then
we
just realized tonight that this is actually the second time C. Michelle has done this show with us, and the last time he was on was actually, I think the last time he was on was the time that we last talked about the gear. So welcome back.
G'day, Daryl. Thanks for having me, mate. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it kind of a little bit of a deja vu thing going for you.
Oh, yes and no. I think we spoke a lot about my trip over through America as well that time.
Actually, no, that was the last time you were on. We did talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So it wasn't just
last time you were on.
No, it's just not about the text. It's also about the experiences as well.
Right. All right. Well, let's kick it off. Land Monkey, you actually had some things that are not actually gear that you think about as essentials for outdoor travel.
Yeah. So I want to give out a what do you call this? Not a consumer message. What do you call this? A
public service announcement.
Thank you. A PSA, a public service announcement. But really, there's a key message that's been going around in Canada, and hopefully you guys hear the same thing in the US. But before you plan to go out, you plan what's called the 3 T's as essential for any outdoor adventure. The first T is trip plan. So you tell someone where you're going and when you expect to be back. There's varying levels of detail you can do with your trip plan, and there's you can download forms. You can just post on Facebook. Hey, I'm going on this hike. This is when I'm leaving. I expect to be back at this time. Somebody who cares will check in, say, hey, did you make it back? And if they don't hear, all right. So trip plan, first T. Second T is training. So you can take all the cool gear you want. You can plan to go out in a kayak. You can go climb a mountain. You can do whatever you want. But if you don't know how to do it, you're going to probably need search and rescue. So training, learn how to use the gear that you have to do what you're planning to do. And the third T is take the essentials. We always used to preach about the 10 essentials, but you kind of modify that list of what the core essential things you need depending on where you're going and what you're doing. So instead of just saying the 10 essentials, which is what we used to say, is just say take the essentials and sort of plan that out. So that's the 3 T's. Wanted to sort of get that message across right off the start, and practice what I preach. My caching vest is loaded with the essentials. I have had the training I need for first aid and kayaking, and I know how to do whatever I'm going to do. And I always do some level of trip plan before I go out. So there.
Well, take that.
There we go.
So nicely done.
If you're going to go kayaking, you're not going to need that rappelling rope, right?
No, but you do need a kayak.
Right.
Yes.
Likewise, if you're going to go rappelling, you don't want the kayak along.
No, unless you want to get down the cliff really quick.
Now, I've seen this in movies. You can get down the side of a mountain in a kayak.
I've seen that too, actually. Yes,
like
yes,
a
you
split.
can.
Yeah.
Chris,
So-
you go ahead and let us know how it turns out.
Okay.
You probably
Now-
do it more so in Canada than anywhere else.
And I've seen you can jump out of a plane in an inflatable raft and land safely in a river. So you should have one of those with you.
Yes.
Let me know when I'm helping.
Yeah, you're helping a lot. That's
If
awesome.
you see it in a movie, it will not work for you in real life.
Yeah,
okay?
there you go.
Let's
Pretty much.
get that
If
right
The
now.
Rock- If The Rock can do it, you can't.
Right. There you go. Somebody said here, Wet Coaster says, this is the gear you take with you, not the gear you leave in the car.
Yeah.
So, your vest, Land Monkey, I mean, it's incredible. You've got everything packed in there. But if you think, oh, well, it's just a short hike, I'll just leave it in the car. It doesn't do you any good if you get into trouble. And we've seen that these short hikes, because of fire or a flash flood or some quick natural type of disaster, can isolate you from that car before you have a chance to respond. So it's important you take these with you. I just took it out. I always have a backpack in my car. Now, I don't always bring it with me, but it's in the car because if I know, well, you know what, this is a little longer hike, I'm going to take it. But I have to admit, most of my caching is kind of urban caching where, I'm not going to be more than a couple hundred yards from the car. So then again, that creek could rise and you're stuck. So.
Yeah, and in Australia, you find actually like animal bites or snake bites, those sort of things. That's what we more so than the natural disasters. In Australia, we're talking about more of the animal stuff, the dangerous stuff that would actually get you. So we're talking tourniquets, we're talking the first aid kit, that sort of thing. So that's useless in the car, mate. Absolutely useless in the car.
Good point.
Well, and I do have the bag in the car, except that I haven't put it back in the car after I had to last clean out the car to move some stuff. So I need to really get that back in there. But it does have like the basic first aid kit, but I have another first aid kit that does stay in the car at all times for more extensive stuff. But even that bag rarely goes with me to caching anymore, since most of the caching I do isn't those big long trails.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really only about 3 things I take with me on every cache. And that's first off the smartphone with a battery case. And of course I use Cachely on that as my caching app. I have my telescoping space pen, which just fits in the pocket. I carry that pretty much all the time because it's just a handy tool to have in daily life. And then I'm a big Swiss Army knife fan still. Have been since as long as I can pretty much remember. So I carry my Deluxe Tinkerer because that's the one that I like as the sweet spot because it has the pliers, the scissor, it has the Phillips screwdriver, which comes in handy for all kinds of things, including quick fixes to door frames at the office even.
I didn't know you were in the Swiss military.
I was not, but I just like to, grab their knives and...
He's an
Okay.
honorary member.
He's not allowed to tell us that he was.
No, it's a secret.
Okay, gentlemen, before we get too far off of first aid kits, have you refreshed your first aid kit this year?
Yes, I have.
Good. Daryl?
I did at the beginning of the year.
That's fine.
Yeah, I usually do mine in spring. At the beginning of like my real caching season.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons I do that is I leave my kit in the car. So up here, it gets frozen. So I don't trust most of the gels and liquids in that kit.
Mm-hmm.
See, it is spring down here, mate. So you might as well clean that now, just for Aussie's sake,
True. I better do it twice a year
Once for the Northern Hemisphere, once for the South.
Correct, because you never know when I'll just like suddenly go through a portal and be down in the Southern Hemisphere.
You never know. You never
Every
know.
spring that happens, you need to change your kit.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, didn't someone have a portal gun that they were using to get to caches? I think so.
Oh, that was on last year's GIF, wasn't it? That was in
Was
last
it?
year's GIF event. Yeah, not this
okay.
year's, the last year's GIF event, if I do
Wow.
recall.
It sold last year.
Yeah, I'm just getting mixed up then. I thought that was this year. Anyway.
We know how much you love your gadgets, but really.
Hey, just think how much gas I could save. You know, so
as in petrol or as in
yes, petrol.
Oh yes.
Yeah, if I want to go drive to a mega event, all I have to do is blast that big portal in the roadway and drive right through it.
Yeah, not like I did last weekend. Drove 10 hours each way for a mega event on a weekend, and I worked on the Friday and worked on the Monday morning. So, yeah, not much time for other things.
No, and you know what else? Think about all the money you could save on the hotels too.
Yes, this is true.
You portal home at night.
You portal home every night.
Or sleep in your car, in your case, see, Michelle.
Yeah, I slept in the car for 2 hours before I started work, 6 a.m. Monday morning, but that's all right.
So you could just portal to the train station.
Exactly. Well, if you could portal, why wouldn't you just portal straight to work?
Because you like the train station coffee. I don't know.
I'm old school. I catch the train. That's so 2000s.
So, Daryl, there's some good advice in the chat for you there from Keepers of the Cash Flow, who I believe are from Alberta, where you do get some pretty cold winter. And they're saying they keep their first aid kit by the door to keep things from freezing. So there you go. So you just grab it on your way out and drop it there on your way back in.
Yeah, that is good advice. However, I keep it in the car because if I need it, like just going to and from work at some point, then I always have it with me, and I'm not going to grab it like at that point. So yeah, I actually keep the cash bag inside in the winter, partially for that very reason, because it's got the kit, the first aid kit, so I don't have to worry about the gels and stuff freezing in the cold overnight temps. So excellent point, though.
Again, Daryl, we don't have that issue here. Like, what's freezing?
No, but there you have to worry about it boiling.
But even so, it's much easier to know when it's boiling here and when it's freezing because we're in Celsius. Same with Canada as well.
That's right.
You Fahrenheit people. I don't know. Jeez.
Once we get across the border, I don't know what's going on there.
Well, in my trip, I must say, when I went from Seattle up to White Rock, I did feel like I was traveling home. Back to Canada.
We tried to make you feel at home, so it's good.
You did, mate. It was very much appreciated.
See, but I thought you guys would be excited when you come over here that you can drive at those higher speeds.
Higher speed. I drove at lower speeds.
Difference.
The numbers are all lower than they should be.
Oh, you're right. It's going the other way. Sorry. I keep thinking that
drive further.
Oops. But no, I hate the two system thing. Going into Canada. It's not so bad if you have that little button on the dashboard to switch between miles and kilometers, but yeah. Anyway.
Daryl, all your listeners to this podcast just decided to go metric. You basically force the rest of the country to do it.
Yeah.
I say we do it. So, okay, new GeoGearHeads movement. We're all going to go metric.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
How many meters from the cache are you now?
Chris, what do you say? Should we do this?
I resist.
You resist?
Yes. I can't figure out what kilometers and meters are.
Yeah, darn base 10 system. It's so hard to figure out.
I know. Kilometer, hectare, they're all the same. Milliliter, I can't figure out how to convert between them.
In the metrics, in all groups of 10. It's so easy. So easy.
Exactly.
And we have to replace all those wrenches and everything.
The wrenches are already metric for everything I need.
Yeah, but like Craig said,
I actually still have a few.
Makes sense. 0 is freezing, 100 is boiling.
100 is boiling. It's not that hard.
That up.
Well, for water at least.
Well,
Yeah.
You gotta.
Yeah.
No, it's universal. And once you leave the United States, everything freezes and boils at the same temperature. Yeah.
Ooh, interesting.
Just in the U.S., things freeze and boil at different temperatures.
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
well, okay. So, if I'm understanding correctly, when we switch to the metric system, then all of the liquids and solids and everything just adhere to that system.
Yes.
Yes.
So, at 0 degrees, everything becomes solid. And at 100 degrees, everything turns to gas.
Correct.
And
Correct.
liquid in between.
I think we found a reason to not switch to the metric system.
It works in Australia.
It does. It works really well.
Yeah, but everything's
Oh.
near 100 in Australia.
Well, yeah, you assume everything's 100 when you're in Australia.
And in Canada, everything's near 0.
Everything's in 0 in Canada. Yeah, that's right. Oh my goodness. So what were we talking about tonight?
I think we need a larger country.
Oh, we are so far off the rails. But let's get back on with some of the gear.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk real quick, though, about what the essentials are that you guys always have with you when you go out?
Sure.
Not necessarily for like a day of caching, but even for that quick cache or two to keep a streak alive, or because there's a new FTF.
The FTF. You're assuming
Yeah.
any of us get a chance to go for an FTF. Well, I've got a basic carry for every hike, and I honestly don't do a lot of caching that isn't a hike. So for me, I have my super uber cool vest, and it is a hydration vest. So I've always got water. Always got a little bit of food. I pack layers of clothing. I always have some sort of communications device, which is usually the cell phone. Orientation, which is a combination of GPS, cell phone, and I carry a compass, believe it or not. Always have a headgear of some sort, a toque or a cap, and then light, a knife, and first aid.
Oh, wow. That's for every single one of your caches.
Any hike. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the vest is packed with all this stuff, and it doesn't take that much space if you plan it right. So you can have all that and just have the vest ready to go, grab it, go.
But yeah, the whole point is that you're not doing like the park and grabs. You're going out on usually more than one, but at least if you go out for one, it's going to be something of a hike that you want to have that gear with you.
Yeah, and if I'm going to be doing park and grabs, I just put my vest in the truck anyways, because my tots are in the vest as well. So everything's in there, so I can just grab stuff out of it if I need it.
I'm more the minimalist, so I have my phone and a pen. That's it, pretty much.
Often I'm more minimal than that. I just bring the phone and forget the pen.
Oh, and you do that whole I've taken photo to prove thing.
I will not do that. I will find some other way. No. But yeah, phone and a pen. But like I say, I'm rarely going more than a few hundred yards or meters from my car.
Good man.
I'm working hard at this. Okay. I decided, I was wrong in my initial assessment of rejecting the metric system.
But I'm the same. Because obviously with my streak as well, I'm on a daily streak, and so I get it to and from work. So they've got to be park and grabs, because if I'm finishing later at night and I'm caching in the dark, it's got to be quick.
Quick, easy, in and out.
Yeah,
without the mud, so that you don't get muddy.
It's actually a bit harder in Australia because we don't even have the lamppost skirts. We don't have any of those here.
Well, yeah, I've heard that that's a regional thing. That like Sydney and one of the other major cities, they were saying they have no lamp skirts. But if you get into like Tasmania, was it that you actually start seeing the skirts?
Yeah, they still don't have skirts on them. No, we don't have skirts at all. Yeah, no skirts at all. So.
Bloody big spiders to live. Why would they have them?
Exactly right.
Very good point. Yeah, if there were skirts, Yeah,
you wouldn't go in there anyway.
How do you hide 50% of your caches if they're not under lamp skirts?
Under rocks normally, or a base of trees. A base of trees and rocks are the main two.
Yeah.
Suspicious pile of rocks, the spore. That's pretty much the main two here. And they're always at the moment, they're going mint tins. They're worse than your pill bottles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're getting an influx of these mint tins because I do believe that they're brand new caches, like players, and they do a few, and all the ones they do are all mint tins. So then they just create, and it's like a roll-on effect. You know, oh, this is what the game's all about, so I'll give myself a mint tin and I'll hide one. You know,
Right.
so that's where I think the last souvenir or the last couple of months of souvenirs from HQ have been really good because they've been trying to push people to the good quality caches, you know, give you more points for a high favorited cache.
So Craig, on the plus side, when you go to an event, everybody has fresh breath.
Oh yes, there's one geocacher in particular here in Sydney, and he's got over 200 hides, and every single one is a mint tin, including, like, he's got a D5 puzzle, and this D5 puzzle is magnificent. It's layered upon layer of puzzle, and it's a mint tin.
So close.
Yep. So, but yeah, that's in my case. I've got the phone and the pen. That's pretty much it. Oh, sometimes the hat if it's in the car. So, or if I'm going to do a periscope, I'll wear the hat.
Right. Yeah, we didn't talk about the tech gear we always carry. That's
exactly. That's different. That's not cash. That's tech.
Okay, so why don't we talk about that briefly? Because we got into that in the
pre-show.
Pre-show, yeah, we'll call it the pre-show. You know, we're all gearheads for podcast and vlogging gear.
Oh yeah.
So I don't take anything usually other than the cell phone with me, because when I do live streams, it's typically just something, you know, off the cuff, and I just do it from the phone, and I don't do the vlogs. But I think both of you are actually doing vlogs still, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, we both are.
So, see, Michelle, why don't we start with you? What is the gear that you're actually taking with you for doing that kind of stuff on the trail?
My last video that I only posted up, I think it's yesterday. All the gear I took was my my Osmo. It's a gimbal, and I got the new iPhone X, which now records in 4K as well, and 60 bits, which is awesome. So between the gimbal and the phone, that's all I used, and obviously then some editing software when I got home. And I reckon that's probably one of my highest quality videos that I've made to date was the one I posted yesterday. So yeah, it's really good quality. Everything just pops like with that 4K resolution. It's incredible. The only difference is now is obviously I've got to buy another terabyte hard drive because otherwise my computer just like it's too much.
Computer goes on strike. That's it.
Exactly. But other than that, though, like I went down to the Mega with my new podcast, Geocaching Down Under, it's an all Australian podcast. I took I can't think of the name. It's a Zoom H1. Was a new recorder. I took that down there and did a lot of interviews with the attendees and the hosts and everything else as well. And it's a great recorder, that one, because it records everything nice and close like a microphone, but at the same time you got really sweet background noise. And especially down in Melbourne, we had outdoor seminars. And so the birds chirping in the background, it absolutely is sensational. It's just music to the ears, music to a podcaster's ears.
Yeah, Zoom does an amazing job on their entire range of products from my experience. I use the H2 whenever I'm doing any audio recording. In the studio, I've got it plugged line in when I'm doing stuff here in the studio. And when I'm doing, on the road, grabbing audio for caching in the Northwest, I use it as you do. And man, the quality of the recordings is spectacular.
Yeah. And then the ones up, I saw you can actually plug 2 or 4 devices in, so you can have 4 microphones coming out from the one device.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I saw that too. And went, I didn't want to go that pricey for my first purchase. But I thought, no, that's something good to look forward to.
Well, and that makes it a lot more massive. Not that it's unwieldy, but if you're trying to pack it into something like a vest, that's less room you have for something else to bring along.
Exactly. And the H1 is only the H1's only quite small. It's smaller than any sort of phone even. So it's nice and easy to pack.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't take a whole lot of space, and it's just there.
No,
yeah.
I can show. The H2 is also, a decent size, packs nicely into the vest as well. Just a different profile. So the H1 is a longer, thinner profile. The H2 is a little
Short and tubby.
shorter and squatter. Yeah.
And
But I was going to say, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, on the road and in the studio, I like the H4, which is a little bigger yet. Now I've got this one mounted to a tripod for the studio, but you can see I've got, in audio in, down in, quarter in, or XLR, and it's got that great crossover zoom microphone that's in the H1. It's in all of them, actually. Yeah. It's a fantastic device.
Yeah, different variants on their same XY, I think is what that's called, design.
Yeah, and it basically picks up the left and right speaker, like the 2-channel. Oh, yeah, I really liked it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's
you
pretty
can
amazing.
also do true 4-channel recording. So
yes,
you take the XY mics and 2 other mics, have 4 people talking. So
very cool.
Ed Tick Magnet in the chat wants to know if anyone has tried the GoPro 7.
I have not. I have a Hero 4 that I use when I go out.
Yeah, I've got a Hero 4 and a 3, but I don't use them that often anymore because of the phone.
Yeah.
The phone's always with you, and it's sometimes better quality. So unless I'm doing some sort of sporting activities, or like in the where it's going to get wet or damaged, or even like suction cap to the car, if you want to get some car footage or whatever, some B-roll footage, then that's the only time I use the GoPros now.
Craig, you nailed it. To me, the GoPro is the perfect B-roll device, and that's exactly what I use it for. I use my phone now. I'm an Android user, but same idea. I've got an Osmo gimbal as well. I use that for my my primary footage as well as some B-roll. But the difference in shooting with a handheld phone, either a phone or a camera, and then using a gimbal, is spectacular. It's like a night and day difference. That's such a huge quality difference in the stability and the smoothness of your video.
Now, the word gimbal may be new to some of our listeners. Daryl, do you want to jump in and explain what a gimbal is?
Basically, the gimbal is a stabilizer. Most people probably know them best as Steadicams. That's like in the 80s and 90s, everyone was talking about Steadicams and getting the camera off the tripod. And now you have these tiny little gimbals that handle it for you. Now, like the DJI Osmo is one of the power gimbals. So it's actually doing work to keep it stabilized and does a better job. But for like $20, you can get some balance gimbals. I forget what they're actually called, but they're just the physical device that has weights, and it's on a little ball joint basically, and you hold it so it kind of floats there, and the mass of the weights and the camera will hopefully in those get rid of the jitter as you walk.
Yeah, no, Daryl, I had that first. I purchased one of those. Again, you start off like small and work your way up. So I purchased one of the unpowered ones about 4 or 5 years ago now, and it was okay. It wasn't too bad, but I found that the actual phone itself did more, and in the editing process, you can actually take out a lot more of the jitteriness and stabilize it a lot better than what you can with that. And it wasn't until I saw the DJI Osmo with that sort of gimbal, and I'm like, oh, this does it all before. I don't have to edit anymore. This is just, and it is silky smooth. Like, you know how you can see obviously with the gimbals on the bottom of the drones, for instance, the cameras on the drones. So you see some drone footage. Well, I can do my own drone footage now because I'm 6 foot tall, just by holding it up in the air and walking it across. Like, yeah, that's a drone. Yay.
Well, that's a good point, because it's DJI. It's the same company that makes a lot of the super high quality drones that people are using for a lot of these footage. I mean, gosh, you watch a number of the films, especially the German ones, in the GIF, and they all have drone shots, right? And DJI makes a lot of these drones, and it's the same company that you're using the same technology in a handheld device for that stabilization of the shot. It's great. If you're if you're thinking about getting into vlogging, or if you're into vlogging, it's worth considering.
Or
Well,
even
and
just
I would not
filmmaking.
recommend. Oh, sorry. I would
So I
not
was just-
recommend anyone with a modern phone get those mechanical gimbals anymore.
No.
The trouble with gimbal is, in most cases, with those that are not active, you need to turn off the stabilization on the camera. You can't do that with a phone. It's always on. So do not get one. And really, my experience with it, with or without the stabilization, has not been good. So I would not recommend any of those. However, I would also not recommend any of the active gimbals, any of those active stabilizers, if you're planning on anything more than like a normal shot. So if you're trying telephoto, it's still not going to work. And in many cases, the gimbals can actually make that worse. So keep that in mind too. If you're trying to get it for like a camera, like a DSLR, which they do make them for those as well, it's not something you're going to want to use with that like 70 to 200 lens. You need to use the stabilization in the camera, not the stabilization of something like a gimbal.
Yeah, the gimbal's the best for phones. Pretty much,
Right.
You know, that's pretty much it. I wouldn't recommend it for anything
action
but phones.
cameras.
Yep.
Or 360 cameras.
Mm-hmm.
They make special versions through 360s because it's a 360. But yeah, any of those that have the wide angle lens, they're going to work very well.
Yeah. And so you'll find as well with the powered, especially one with the DJI Osmo, it's got different functions in it because it's electronic gimbal. So you can do different functions such as time lapse, but you can do a moving time lapse by itself. So if you can actually sit it on a tripod and do the time lapse itself, and you can actually do a moving time lapse of like Times Square, for instance, or some sort of action area. And that footage looks absolutely superb. You know, I tried to do it before the gimbal. I bought the gimbal. I tried to do it with an egg timer. So I had my GoPro on top of an egg timer, and it slowly ticked around the egg timer while the GoPro was doing time lapse. It looked okay, but it's nothing like the gimbal.
Well, the problem with the timer based ones like that, you can't control the speed.
No,
not 100% anyway.
Yeah.
I find that the biggest problem with any of those kind of systems is that it takes the tripod and the camera and the gimbal have to sit there for quite a while. So you don't want to leave it unattended. So
No. Especially in Times Square.
Wow. Okay, so we're way off of the geocaching thing. So before we wrap up, because we are getting kind of long, let's talk a little bit more about some of the stuff that we actually take on the trail when we're going on the trail. And Chris, I saw that you put in Phrase Days notes in here, which I thought were a good start.
Yeah, Phrase Days said in the chat, they take with them a backpack, hat, water, sunscreen, insect repellent, headache tablets, pen, Android phone with geocaching app, an iPad with Cachly, an old Morty in tow. And I think we should all have an old Morty in tow.
Well, see, Phrasey Day, she's from Australia down here, and old Morty's her partner. You see, so
yeah, exactly. We should all have someone like that.
Exactly. But yeah, sunscreen's actually very good, and that's something that we missed out on. I'm not sure because in Canada, I don't think does the sun shine up there. I don't know, but
rarely.
But sunscreen here in Australia is very, very important. Very important. So and the insect repellent.
Yeah, both of those things. And the other thing to think about is sunscreen can be important even if it's not a super hot day. So a lot of days where maybe it's cooler, but the sky's clear and you're going kayaking. You're going to be out on the water.
Water or snow.
Snow, yeah.
Yeah.
You actually want to be thinking about that. So, it's not just for Australia. Sunscreen is for all of us.
Yeah. And, even the simple spray on sunscreen at least gives you some protection.
Yeah.
One of the coolest things that I found years ago, and I haven't really found it since, were individual like moist towelettes that had the sunscreen in them. And that's what I really want to find again for the bag, because you never know when you're going to be out a little too long, washes off, whatever. And all sunscreen has a time limit.
Yeah.
And it's always
Yeah.
shorter than what it says on the bottle. So I loved having that with me, and I haven't been able to find that recently. You know what? It just occurred to me, though, no one's mentioned flashlights.
Oh, I did.
No.
Torches. Did you?
Start. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You did.
I was going through the show notes thinking, you know what? No one's mentioned flashlights.
I always carry a light. And the other thing we always have is on our keychain, we have a little UV light because you never know when some sneaky little CO is
Now, what has your luck been with those little keychain UV lights?
good enough for what we need.
Okay. Because I've got a couple of different UV lights, and my experience is most of the time, the little LED ones don't really work so well. You know, it's fine if it's a newer cache, you know, where it's been recently rewritten, something like that. But once it gets a little bit older, I need the better, more expensive UV light, which is a slightly different wavelength. And that one's actually still LED, but it's a different wavelength that I don't remember what it is, and I should have probably found that. We talked about it on one of the night caching shows, and that made a big difference where you can see it where the others just kind of wash out.
Yeah.
But
I tried to
like
actually
having the little keychain light again with me at all times, and you never know when you can like just poke that little flashlight into a hole and spot the reflection of the container.
True. I tried to put out a night cache though, and the what's it called? The UV ink. It would never stay. Like I had it on paper. I had it on cardboard. I had laminated everything, and within a month, it's gone. It's
Was
depleted.
it in the direct sunlight?
No, it was in a container.
Oh, see, I've seen that work better. Interesting.
Yeah. That's well, there's several different types of markers and paint pens. Typically, geocaches that have had good luck with it do use those paint pens. But the trouble with the paint pen is it usually leaves enough of a texture that you can see or even or feel or even see it in the right conditions.
Yeah.
You know, without UV.
Yeah. So UV light, definitely something to carry, to think about, if to even have a simple one. We always carry
that. I might put into another category though, because that's one of those like specialized tots, the specialized tools.
It is, but like I said, if you just get one of the cheap ones and hang it off your keychain, then
sure.
Have it. It might not work great, but you have it. If you get caught up by some weird mystery field puzzle cache and you didn't see that coming, so that's a handy thing. We always carry tweezers. We always carry a telescoping magnet, and a telescoping little mirror.
Well, I purchased this the other day as well. It's a little telescoping magnet on the end,
same thing.
But it's got the LED.
Exactly.
Ooh,
that's really nice.
So that's pretty sweet.
But yeah,
LED on it, so you can actually see as well whilst you're picking up things. So it's good.
That is cool. Craig, where did you get that?
eBay. Where else do you get these things? I think it was 99 cents with like $1 postage and handling.
Nice.
So yeah,
I've grabbed a few of the inspection mirror kits, and they're great things to have. But I like getting the kits because you usually will get like something that's small, about the size of a coin, so that will get into some of those tighter places. And then they also have a bigger, usually rectangular magnet or mirror that will help you with that. So not a difficult item to find, and it's one of those things you can find for a couple of bucks sometimes at like Harbor Freight or your local hardware stores dollar bin kind of thing, the discount stuff. Yeah. And for that, grab it, throw it in the cash bag, and if you accidentally lose it, not a big deal financially, but always good to have.
Exactly. And I was talking with the Mega last weekend as well. They had 20 lab caches down there, and there was a few things that you actually needed for the labs, which they weren't on the page, the cache page or anything. There was few of them had needed a 9-volt battery, So you click the 9-volt battery in to start it, etc. Another one required actually the power bank itself, not a battery, but a power bank, because it had a USB cable came down. And once you plug in the USB cable, inside the actual container or the cache was one of those fans, the electronic fans with LEDs, and then it displayed the word on the LED. That was pretty cool. A magnet again, because the magnet that they used was actually quite clever. So it was like had ABC 1, 2, 3, all these numbers, all like the plastic kids numbers that you have on the fridge. And what they've done on the code word that you needed, they've taken the magnets out and put them in back to front, so they repel the magnet. So you got to basically work out which one's repelled, and then worked out the word from there. So that was pretty clever. And then obviously with the new AR ones with the phones, etc., and the apps. There was one app that it wasn't actually an app; it was a website you went to. You go to the website, you put in some passwords and some key codes, and then all of a sudden you heard this bang and looked around, and then the cache was just popped out of the tree. So that was pretty cool as well.
Wow,
so
that's very cool. One thing I'll add, instead of just getting a standard power bank, you might want to get one of those jumpstart kits, because that will also work with most of the caches that require 12 volt, because it does the 5 volt for the USB and the 12 volt. They're a little bit big that you might not want to carry it with you all the time, but to have that in the car is a great asset. And, if you accidentally leave the dome light on for 8 hours while you're caching, at least you'll be able to get home again.
Exactly. Well, the power bank I've got is actually got a solar panel on the front. So this hooks on my kit bag if I'm actually going for a hike. This will hook on the kit bag and keep the power. It doesn't keep the as in it uses more than what it can actually bring in, but it's better than not having it at all. So I think so.
Oh yeah, and I like those little solar ones. Not that I've really noticed that it's doing so much to charge it up, but I like to at least feel like I'm getting some free power from my hike.
We've heard about you, Daryl. Anything for free.
I have a question. Do any of you guys carry in when you go out on your sort of your standard carry for geocaching? Do you carry anything that you can use to do maintenance on caches you come across?
I do have a maintenance kit in the car, which is the problem because it usually stays in the car. But it does come in handy many times, including one time where I did a first to find and the cache owner forgot to put the log sheet in there. So I had a log sheet to drop in. That was very, very nice. with permission, of course.
There you go. How about you, Craig?
Yeah, I've got, again, it stays in the car mostly though, because why would you take it out on a hike for? Unless you specifically, when I go for a hike, especially here in Australia, you target specific caches. You have a look and you research them prior to going out. If there's a couple of DNFs on one, you may message the CO and say, look, do you want me to check on that for you? Do you want me to replace it for you? It's up to you. You don't do the throwdowns, but that sort of thing. So if I'm not going on a hike, then I just have it in the car, and mostly it's made up of just some logbooks. Logbooks are the main issue around here, and the smaller ones, because it's always the bison tubes, or it's always the mint tins that have got the wet logs in and stuff. So, and you know what they say, no name on the log, then you didn't find it. So you can't do this, take a photo and show it to the CO later, can you? Chris?
No, it does not count. I will not do it. Usually if I'm out caching any long times, I grab my Tilly hat, and that Tilly hat has a pocket in the top of it, and that's where I keep extra logs.
That's a cool idea.
So, you have a pocket in your hat?
Well, don't you?
No, I've got my head in my hat. What are you talking about?
No, the Tillies have a little pocket, a flat pocket right on the top of the hat, right over your head. And it's awkward to put anything of weight in there, but
you think so.
So micros. I tried a slim USB battery for one hike, and it made the hat move back and forth. I was like, I can try it.
Let alone carrying around an extra brick or anything.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. Nothing of liquid because, well, But I suppose you could put sunscreen up there and let it just drip down your back.
I liked the way that Craig said that when he puts his head in his hat. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's better than other places you could put your head. So that's good.
Oh, there he goes, Daryl. There he goes. You won't be invited back now.
My. Anyway.
So anyway, I keep like nano logs and micro logs
Mm.
in there. I'm not keeping, a notebook of anything, but just, something to quickly change out a log for a smaller cache.
Well, here's a question for you then, Chris. If you weren't a geocacher and had to actually carry pieces of paper around in your hat, what would you put in that hat?
I have no idea. I suppose you could put a driver's license and a couple of dollars in there and go for a hike if you needed to, but I don't know why they put a pocket in there, but since they did, I'm going to use it. And then I can think, I've got my hat, so I've got what I need to change out this cache.
So you'd only put a couple of US dollars in there because Australian dollars are actually coins.
Yeah,
like $1 and $2. They're coins in Australia.
No, I keep all my change up in my hat. Yeah.
Can you fit a Timbit in there?
And usually a Leatherman tool
in your hat.
Crowbar. You were believing me there for a minute.
It wouldn't surprise me with you, Chris. What are you talking about? I've known you long enough now.
Too is saying that space is intended for the foam so that the hat will float.
See, we've actually got some sensibility in the chat room, which is good. There's nothing on the show ever.
All right, one more thing I do want to add to our list of the specialized tots is actually water. You want to bring that along anyway, but how many times have you run into one of those really tricky caches where you need water either to float the cache or to wet something that has that hydrophobic paint so that the words, accords, whatever come out. So that you want to have the water available anyway, but keep in mind that there are some of those caches where you'll need extra water. So something easily carried for water would be handy.
On that note, with those types of, you're talking about like the PVC pipe with all the holes drilled in it, right? That type.
Yeah, that's one of those. Yeah.
So I would like to also throw out a really good suggestion I learned recently for those is something you should carry anyways, which is duct tape.
Oh, yes.
Or blue tack. We call it blue tack.
There you go.
Do you know how blue tack? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. I don't know.
I carry gaffer's tape, which is similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just doesn't leave the residue that duct tape typically does.
Yeah.
And that's something you should probably have in your 10 essentials or on your keychain.
I usually carry the whole roll with you.
Well, so I usually have an Allen key that, has the loop in the top, and then I take and wrap that a few times with duct tape, just so I have it with me. It's not a huge strip, but it's enough that you can make an emergency repair if you need to, or cover up a few holes on a PVC tube.
Because there are those PVC tubes out there. I mean, most of them have got like 1 or 2 holes that you can do, as a solo cacher. But the ones with like 10+ holes, it's like, oh, seriously? Yeah. I got no friends to go caching with. How can I do this by myself?
Coon and Bud says that they like to carry a comb to get the burrs off the pants. I've also heard a spork works very well for that. So either one or something that you might want to consider carrying. And G Nice says they carry the money in the Tilly and call it the Bank of Tilly.
So good lunch on the Bank of Tilly today, are you? I'm going to have to remember that next time I see him. Grab that hat. Keepers of the Cash Flow likes to carry a tick key with them.
Yep.
And,
very good.
Here in the Northwest, ticks aren't a huge issue. They're on occasion.
They are down here.
Yeah, that's one of those things that it's going to be more regional.
Right.
But at this point, I'm not sure what it's like outside of North America, but they were saying that we're pretty much hitting that point where ticks are throughout the entirety of North America. So your places you can go to escape ticks are very few.
Yeah,
makes me
I don't know about the Yukon.
Well, there's ticks in freezing temperatures, like in Alaska, but I think it's a different type of tick. I don't remember, but I know they were talking about ticks on some of the moose in Ottawa, maybe carrying some disease.
Okay.
It was just like a few months ago. I heard it on one of the CBC programs I listened to as a podcast.
All right. Ottawa. I mean, Ottawa gets cold in the winter, but I mean, Ottawa is basically
No.
Detroit. So
Right.
And nobody wants to
it's
go
not
there.
that
Anyway.
bad. Well, it is worse than Detroit is, as far as the low temps.
There you go.
But yeah, no, it's they've moved at least that far north.
There you go. Learn something new from Daryl.
Coon and Bud is wondering if they're ice ticks.
Yeah.
You know what? I wonder if they're white to blend in with the polar bear's fur.
I think you can order that at Starbucks.
Oh, an ice tick?
An ice tick, yeah. A decaf ice tick.
I thought that's what you used when you were going to climb a waterfall. You need an ice tick.
Mm.
Oh my!
So
I'm thinking we need to wrap this up though, because
have kicked C. Michelle off the internet.
yes.
Oh, geez, yeah. Where'd he go?
Oh, you just noticed? No, he just dropped out.
Yeah, and the puns are getting worse and worse. So I think we should save everyone from our continued slide into bad pundom and take off. We want to, of course, thank C. Michelle, even though he's disappeared. Hopefully he's, you know what I'm thinking? He's probably been running off battery this whole time and not noticed. Oh, he's coming back. He's coming back.
His USB battery. He's back.
For the close.
Oh, maybe he's not coming back. He's psyching us out.
Well, it was awesome to see him again anyways.
Yes.
Yes, it was. And it's been far too long.
Back on to talk about something other than the gear he carries.
Yeah, or the trip across the US.
Right. That was the gear he had in the trip across the US.
Or vlogging. We talked to him on vlogging one time.
And the gear he used.
And the gear he used.
Yeah.
So I think we have to have a completely gear-free show.
Oh, I don't know if we can do that.
I don't think we can. I think that violates our charter, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, speaking of shows, now next week's show may or may not have gear in it. It's a randomized show. And you know what? If you send in questions that don't have anything to do with gear, we could have a gear-free show. So go ahead, send those questions to GeoGearHeads at cashamaniacs.com. Really sorry, the tryptophan's kicking in and my tongue is starting to go to sleep. Make sure you use the subject line GGH 631. December 6th, we are going to talk trackables. December 13th, 3D printing. December 20th, we're doing benchmarking. And after that, we're having C. Michelle read us an essay he's recently written.
Oh, are we just? Sorry, guys. It's so windy here down in Australia at the moment. I just had a quick blackout and it knocked out the Wi-Fi. I mean, seriously, it's that windy that a chicken could lay an egg 3 times in a row here. Like, it's just incredible. But
it's so windy, the internet went away.
Yeah, so the internet went down. The Wi-Fi went down.
I love that expression. I'm going to be using that one in the future.
That's a pipe down under expression, that one.
I'm just so amused that it's so windy that it blew away his Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
It did.
Radio
Nothing's safe in Australia.
Are being blown away by the winds down in Australia.
Exactly. The waves themselves, they all go in one direction and it's too windy that they're moving around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for joining us, and despite the issues, and we'll have to get you back on later to talk about something that hopefully doesn't involve gear so much.
Well, I'm not good enough for your gear, Daryl. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Mr. Gadget Man.
You missed the whole point. We were talking about the last 4 times that you've been on the show. We think it's been primarily gear discussions each time.
Well, you are the GeoGearHeads.
We are. So we're debating if we can actually have a gear-free show, because that might break our charter.
I don't think we could actually go an hour without talking about gear to some degree.
I'm sure we can't.
As much as a pen is gear. There we go.
That's right. That's right.
Very true. Yeah.
Everything we take is gear.
The cache container is a type of gear.
Exactly.
Oh, we can go to Earth caches. There's no pens and no containers.
No, but you do need a phone to message the CO.
Oh,
There you
there's
go.
gear.
Also work in space.
Oh,
It-
space cache, not an Earth
Space.
cache.
Yeah.
A space cache.
Look for a land monkey. You can't even get a word in.
cache in space. No
I
kidding.
don't need to, Craig. These guys are doing fine.
I know.
And my apologies to you, Jake, because I think this time we're even further off the rails than you have been. But thanks for joining us again.
It's
Thanks,
been
Daryl. Thanks for having me.
a pleasure. And Craig, it was great to see you, man. The Commonwealth unites to take these guys on. I love it.
Metric.
Check the Cache Maniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads at cachemaniacs.com or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cache Maniacs shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link in our website to support the Cache Maniacs shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Offenauer and Daryl Wanberg. This show is copyright 2018 by Daryl Wanberg. All rights reserved.